2, 1.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Discover RPG. I'm Angela. He's Logan. And we are your wonderful hosts through this little journey through RPGs and gaming and D&D and all sorts of fun stuff. Happy New Year! I might seem a little punchy. It's because I had a power nap. And that power was sapped from me during said nap by some sort of specter, some sort of productivity lich, I guess. Took my energy.
Lich.
Yeah. But welcome. We are very excited to be back in 2019. Or as the McElroys have named it, Frankenstein Teen, Be the Monster, which I like that. I like that sentiment. It can either be sinister or empowering.
Wait, which one? What did you say? I'm sorry, I was trying to read chat and keep up.
The McElroys spent their whole half.
Oh yes, I listened to it. I listened today. Frankenstein Teen,
be the monster. Yes, become the monster.
I caught it while I was out getting breakfast, and it was very good.
So
my first Mabim Bam was an episode where they were naming the year, and I did not understand what was
beautiful. Beautiful.
I think it was 2016, 2017, maybe.
I love those. But anyway, we are. How are you doing, Logan?
I'm good. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I was up trying to get the gremlins out of our website, but that will be fixed today. I'm hopeful. I'm not positive, but I am hopeful. Otherwise, I'm going.
I believe in you.
Monster all over it.
Everybody in chat, make sure you clap so Logan gets his wings.
Wait, what?
No, that's not how that works.
You clap so I don't die from poison.
Yeah, do both. Clap bells.
Clap bells. Get little bells together on your fingers and just clap jingle. Jingle.
You have to wear white gloves when you're doing it.
STD. I got the jingle claps.
The jingle clap. Oh my god. You and Andy make the same ridiculous voice when you're proposing a very bizarre invention. We saw a guy on our walk today. We saw a guy running, and I heard like more stepping than I was expecting. I thought he was running harder than he actually was. He was jogging very casually, but he had these shoes that had like an arc, like a bouncy arc on the bottom of them. Like they offset, maybe like he has shock absorbers, so it's easier on his knees or something. Very bizarre looking shoes. But Andy is like, that would be really fun. As the guy walked away when he was out of earshot, he's like, yeah, I would totally do that. I'm running in my moon shoes.
I was going to say moon shoes, yeah. Skechers came out with a shoe like that had this weird kind of bottom arc for a while until they found out it really fucked up people's backs. So hopefully that company was better than...
Well, this isn't so much an arc as like almost a plastic tread that is just like a half circle, and there's empty space under the shoe, and then it squeezes like it's
interesting.
It's very odd.
Like lowers the impact or something?
It kind of looks like when somebody is a weird example. In the Lion King Broadway show, when someone's playing a gazelle, they have like a weird gait kind of bounciness on the feet that they're wearing. It's kind of like that. Huh. But then the shoe looked like a rollerblade boot.
Interesting.
Very strange. I'll have to find them. It was very odd. But more power to the guy. He seemed to be getting his New Year's exercise in. So that's good. So did you get anything fun or do anything fun for Christmas or the holiday?
I got from my wonderful friends at Countless Heroes, I got my new office chair, which was very nice.
Woo!
Which
so important. You're welcome.
I was in a kitchen chair before, and now I'm in a nice cushy office chair, which is very nice. My wonderful wife was as usual wonderful and spoiled me rotten, and in turn I tried to do the same. So that was it. You know, I got her some new headphones, some studio headphones. She's been using an old pair to do all of her monitoring and recording. And
I love Tessa's reaction to that, where it's like, I've never had to turn my volume down before. I'm at like 7%. She realized how like not powerful her old her old audio equipment was.
Yeah, exactly. And then we reorganized my office. I brought my plotter in here from my other business, so now that's all on the side.
Plotter printers are awesome.
Yeah, since I'm no longer doing large format sign work or anything, I can do it all in here now. It's all right here next to me, so I can actually get the work done instead of being in the freezing cold. So you know, all in all, it was a very good Christmas. Yeah, it was all family. Didn't drink anywhere near as much. Worked a lot more than I usually do. But in general, it was a very good Christmas. How was yours?
It was pretty good. I have show and tell. Well, we'll talk about a show and tell at some point.
We'll talk about that one a little bit later.
Talk about that later.
Very excited. That was a great Christmas.
This was really bizarre. My mom got me a pensieve. It opens. I'm gonna have to turn my mic off for a sec.
Okay. Ooh, Spock. What the hell? Do not press.
So it's got. Well, it's
so. Yeah. Oh, it's Harry Potter and the Heroin Shooters, and it's a book. Harry Potter, and now it's broken. Okay, and the pensive.
It's pensive, but it's a journal, and then they included little like the memory jar things. They do open actually. Nice. I don't know what I'm supposed to keep in those. But my favorite part is Dumbledore's wand is a pen.
Nice. What you need to put in them is that sparkly wine that they make with the edible glitter inside.
Yes.
That kind of looks about right.
But it looks really kick-ass on my bookshelf. It will be there from now on.
Very cool. I got the from my mother of all people, my Tessa's mother, but my mother. She's my mother now.
You don't get her, Tessa. She's my mom now.
I got the limited edition Art and Arcana book, which is not here. Also
pretty.
Off, but, I know it's pretty.
Nice.
Yeah, it is very pretty. I'm trying to remember exactly. Tessa spoiled me so much. I'm trying to remember what the hell it was. See if there's anything I can share real quick. But my mind's blanking. It's one of those mornings. No, we all got gifts as we went this year. So you know, she got me a new pair of shoes, she got me socks, pants, you know, the usual. And that's all stuff that I love. I didn't used to love that. I love it now. It's so nice not to have to go do that myself. I get so excited by socks and pants and underwear at Christmas.
Socks are awesome.
Socks are very nice.
Especially that I live in
be nice. Except this year, the manufacturer decided to change the fabric they used.
Oh
so
no!
I bought the same socks for 2 years now, and now all of a sudden they're like, no, we're changing. I don't know if it's a ran out of stock, whatever. We'll get new ones. That's okay. But yeah, no, the dog got some toys. The cat's got some gushy food. It was really good. Oh, and Tessa did make up for the great cookie debacle. Where her and my child they made child's section cookies. So there was this, you know, you go and you buy the Christmas box sets of like you can bake too, and in the kids section, those little Christmas kits that are probably 6 years old. Well, they evidently had one and wanted to make the sugar cookies that were inside of it. They both knew they were horrible as they'd made them hours before. I think they each had one bite and threw them away. And then they brought me one and had me, while they watched, eat it. And so
are you not going to eat the thing your child made for you?
Trying to crunch through this. And then all of a sudden, have you ever made flour paste? You know?
No, but I'm aware.
That's what it turned into in my mouth. It was like, it just turned into like taffy. I was like sitting there chewing it, but nothing was happening. It was like chewing bubble gum. I'm like, am I supposed to swallow this? Do I blow bubbles with it? I'm like, oh, it was good. And it wasn't until after I had taken the first bite and an hour later, the cookie's still sitting next to me. I haven't been able to dispose of the evidence yet that my wife finally admitted she knew that it was crap.
God,
like, that is not okay. But she did make up for it. She made her award-winning, at least in my mind, the best chocolate chip cookies that exist on the planet. I've never ever had a better one, and I am a chocolate chip cookie fiend. And they are amazing. So anyway, I got that. She made those, so that was a good topper.
She should bring stuff to WonderCon, and we should make them at the house where.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys are renting a house. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have an oven.
I'm sure she could.
The only other thing
by then we'll have solidified the recipes for our cookbook that we're going to possibly be doing for the big sub drive, and we'll see if and maybe that'll be in there, maybe not. I don't know if I want to share it.
Oh,
it'll be like a cold.
So Tessa's mom and Tessa's cookie recipe. Those are awful. Tessa doesn't get them anymore. So the other thing I got from but these weren't presents. I absconded with these from my parents' house because these are books they don't want because they're mine. They have huge wall-to-wall bookshelves everywhere, so I was like, "Can I have some of my books back?" And I snagged them for D&D inspiration. I have a book about heavy big book about signs and symbols, and a mythology book called Don't Know Much About Mythology, and then 3 tomes of Nostradamus predictions, which are fun reference material for finding out, like, he talks about some weird shit that happens in those. So it's a good idea if you need weird arcane events to happen. Like, one of them talked about bees taking over the world. So it was, that one sadly kind of happened in the inverse, but in reality, but fun. So I'm looking forward to reading up on some of those in, my free time. But I am looking forward to looking through them to get a little bit of inspiration for future campaigns, and that's my new resolution, is I want to DM a little bit more this year.
Very nice. Good. My DM resolution was I want to DM a little less, but that's not going to happen.
That sounds like a perfect trade-off, Logan.
I am not at all going to.
Let's trade off.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop taking on so many extra projects.
There you go.
But
I'm proud of you.
That's not true either. That's just like all my New Year's resolutions.
But unlike the last time you made a promise, but we didn't record it, this one's on tape.
Yeah, but it's also New Year's resolution, which we know don't last past January. So
my New Year's resolution is to make my New Year's resolution happen. Yep.
All right.
To make my other resolutions happen. Okay, so thank you all for,
bearing with us. We haven't talked in a couple of weeks, so there's a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
We barely
Thank you for indulging.
The last time we did have a chance to sit down, we got interrupted. So,
and yes, Secondhand Samurai, as he put in the chat, I finished at least the basic completion of the article on World Anvil about the Goa as a people. I'm very proud of it.
Yes.
I need more pictures, but I was not at my computer at the time when I made it, so I did the best with what I had. But I am very proud of it. I'm super happy. Logan and I fleshed out the Goa a lot over the course of the game so far, in ways I wasn't expecting in some cases, but it's all been delightful, and I'm very proud of them. And
so that means that we finished and officially are trying to submit for approval. Although I think that my voting might be done. The deities article, the Goa article.
I'm not sure the deities one counted because it was a general article. There weren't any awards for general, but we'll see. I'm still incredibly proud of it, and we have the Goa and Airshale articles were both finished up by the time that happened.
Which you added a whole section on ways you could use these things in your world differently in the Goa, and I really thought that was an amazing section on that.
I really love the idea of doing that with all of our really homebrew stuff. So, like our other races, we want to encourage people to, because we had originally before World Anvil was on our radar as somebody we could partner with, we talked about like storing all this stuff for a book.
Yes.
But with World Anvil, with these articles, yeah, we still might do that. But with World Anvil having the article ability, I'd love to start doing that where this is how these fit into our world. Like with the Goa especially, it's very fundamental to the structure of our world. Like we made Airshell kind of a really important thing, or at least in the mythology. So it all blends very nicely, but that might not work with what you're doing with your world. And so we're like, hey, here's like a handful of other, if you like the idea of sentient statues, but want some different mythology for them or some different origin story, you don't really care about Airshell, you don't want that to be a thing. We put a bunch of different options, or at least just starting points, brainstorming about how you can incorporate the Goa without having to use Airshell or without having to use the specific political situations that we've created.
Absolutely. The very, I think, blatantly obvious predecessor, considering that they share the moniker of living construct, which was created specifically because of the Warforge. The Warforge, using them as a replacement for the Warforge, or using them as an advanced or even a more archaic version of the Warforge is a very interesting concept. And you can tweak the stats on them a little bit. You can even give them the exact same stats and just flavor the Warforge that way, or vice versa. If you don't quite like the way the Warforge are, you can look at our flavor and change them up. They're pretty. They were heavily inspired by them. I knew that I wanted to create a living construct race, and all the ideas I could come up with were just too derivative. Angela's the one that came up with this inspired idea of doing the living statues, and I thought it was amazing. So, and then from there, we came up with the idea of Airshell. I think that was yours as well.
Yeah.
And then,
when people were talking about the myth, when people were talking about the myth of the dragon mother laying an egg, it just seemed so beautiful that I had come up with this idea for these statues that had sort of an alabaster marble look to them, and what does eggshell look like, if anything, but alabaster? And I was like, oh my god, what if it's the same material? And then it just kind of exploded. The world building sort of like just fell into place really nicely because of that. And it
fell in perfectly because Veil was created almost 2 years ago, when I first started developing my own home world, and the myth of the Dragon Mother was there, and the world being born to a celestial dragon. That's been there forever. So yeah, it fit perfectly. It just really became all the pieces fell into place.
Yeah.
If you are the type of person also that struggles with working with people and new ideas being around you, do collaborative world building. It makes you learn how to compromise.
It's challenging.
It's challenging. There's a lot of times Angela sits there and she pitches an idea, and I'm just like, no. And I
can't even explain
why.
That's the partial frustrating part. If you gave me a reason, not just I don't know, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
But the benefit. But
it doesn't feel right for the system.
Yeah, that's fine. But the benefit of collaborative world building is, for example, what if you don't care about developing something, but you know you need to, but somebody else is really passionate about doing that? It's like, listen, I don't care about plant life. Do you want to make a forest? Please go make the forest.
Yeah.
Something like that. You can actually
absolutely
give people tasks.
I had a very different vision for the kingdom, or excuse me, the Republic of Kyros, which is the northern republic above Saldan, that a couple of our people are from, specifically Owen right now. I originally had it as a kingdom and kind of draconian, but I realized we also already had a draconian kingdom here. And so I kind of just let Joe go crazy with it, and he came up with a lot of ideas that I shot down. He being a DM and a world builder, he understood. But together we finally worked out a pretty good idea, because he would come to me with an idea and I'd be like, okay, well, right now here's the things we already have in canon. How does that fit within this? And he'd go, oh, they don't. And he'd let's scrap this and this and this, and let me rebuild it here. Oh, what about this and that? And, in the end, the Kingdom of Kyros is coming together very nicely.
Can we have a?
It's got a very Star Wars prequels vibe.
Okay, so a sort of grand Republic kind of. thing.
Yeah, well, it's got a republic, but the republic right now, the reason, see, my concern was a republic, if in its purest form it's working really well, it's not the type of structure necessarily, especially if it's really speaking for the people, that's going to want to go to war just to do a land grab, and that's what I've been kind of pushing this whole time. However, we talked that the Grand Marshal or whatever, the head, or the High Marshal, whatever, High Chancellor, Grand Chancellor, whatever it is, the leader of the Republic is kind of forcing its hand right now on a religious bent. It's the first time that a religious leader has made it to this position. We haven't determined exactly what the religion is yet, but the original idea was maybe that it was monotheistic, and that they had their own new
another god we have to make.
Well, but there's two reasons why I kind of put that one on the back burner for now. One is we have 55 gods we have to create, plus we have at least 2 or 3 floating out there that may not even fit in the pantheon already. But then anytime you bring into this type of setting a monotheistic religion versus these polytheistic, or sort of religions, it immediately starts to feel like Christianity, like instantly. And then you start looking at things like the wars, and it relates to the Crusades. And so all of a sudden you have all these parallels to a lot of our own history, which I don't necessarily like in my worlds. I don't want to deal with that kind of controversy, because every time you say anything about a monotheistic, if there's anybody out there that has seen a monotheistic religion that doesn't feel like Christianity when you plop it around in this kind of setting, I'd love to see it. But I have looked at dozens, and they all just kind of come back to this idea that it's a single savior, it's a single thing. Some of them even have the resurrection concept built in, and there's a lot of things I'm just like, this is very Christian. I'm not saying that Christianity is wrong or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying
it just has a lot of precedent.
It has a lot of precedence. It exists in our world. We go into these worlds to escape. And so I don't necessarily want to see a lot of this. Is the same reason why I don't like having the exact reflections of culture. Like if you go back to Kingdoms of Calamar, I think it was, they had, this is the Asian, Chinese area. Yeah. This is the Indian area. This is the sort of Middle Eastern. They had all these different things. I was like, they took the culture and just said, this is what they are now. Here's where they are, and the elves are like this and that. And it was just like, I'm not a big fan of taking the real world too much and just kind of plopping it down. I want to create our own culture. I want to create our new things. Because again, it's escapism. I don't want to hear about that sort of thing. The problem is that you can't escape everything. And so we kind of still have to bring some things over, but it's just what you do with them in the end.
We had a very good conversation about nothing on our session plan, so that's fun. I like when we go off on tangents.
About half an hour, maybe we should start talking about that.
Yeah. Let's go. Okay, so Funhouse rules. Or do you want to go over really quick what the session plan is?
We should go over everything real quick. Yeah. Do you want to do that?
Sure. Funhouse rules, right, coming up very much next. We're going to talk about some thoughts about player agency during combat, playing a little fast and loose with the hard rules of combat.
5e, yeah.
Of 5e combat. D&D 5e, to be specific. Then, when rules fail, we actually are transitioning very easily into an article from the Angry GM. I'm so sorry. As I've decided to dub him the Gordon Ramsay of D&D. An article that I found just casually looking up articles and found in his section about improving your improv. This is talking about adjudicating rules when you are when you're in the hot seat, like you're in the middle of it. What do you do? How do you make decisions when you don't want to necessarily go look in the book for 5 minutes and the players have to wait on you, which I thought was very valuable. So we're gonna talk about that. Challenge time, I'm super duper excited about. I freaking love challenge time. And we're going to be doing our monstrous PCs, not our monstrous playable races, but actual monster PCs.
Yeah, I got a good one too.
I'm pretty happy with mine too. And all right, Taming of the Brew, we're going to talk about the Lady of the Lake Warlock patron, who I have some interesting thoughts about how you can tweak it a bit, not mechanically, but how that is. I actually think it's a broader homebrew than it's letting on in terms of the directions you can take it. Then we're going to do sponsor time, which is we're talking about some of our partners, and I promise it's still fun. It's not going to feel too much like a commercial. One of Us, Logan, which one's that? Oh, that's the thing. Okay, so we're talking about getting people interested in RP that haven't normally, or ways to introduce people to RPGs. Specifically, we're going to talk about a game that my husband Andy and I have run a few times that I really enjoy, and it's very rules light, and it's a fun way to get people involved in some of the more chaotic playfulness of D&D without handing them a manual before you play. It's something they can play right off the bat. You can. It's like a kickball game. You can just like start one up, as long as you have like a couple of rules in place. Then we're going to review abstract mapping. D&D Beyond had an article recently, I think it was about a week or so ago, about alternate ways of mapping out your area for combat. Different methodologies for keeping a sense of your space in combat. So I'm looking forward to that one, actually. I really like some of the ideas in there. And then finally, we will be talking about, the easy way out, which is talking about how to decide if you're going to ban something at the table, why you ban things, why you might ban something mechanical or just something from your game, and maybe how to consider alternatives to just outright banning something. That is okay for some people, though. We're not saying you should never ban anything, but we're going to talk about the idea of it, the idea of just putting a kibosh on something for your game.
Prohibition didn't work. Don't ban anything.
Yeah.
All right. So, Funhouse rules. What is that one again? I mean, you had
Funhouse rules. We were going to talk about player agency in combat, letting them do some stuff. Which I have something I want to point out to you that I need to go read I believe secondhand, or Matt suggested a grappling book, grappling rules, more elaborate grappling rules. There's a thing I wish we could do that doesn't explicitly state it in the rules, but I think you should be able to do it, but you'd have to do a homebrew ruling about it.
All right, so what's that thing?
So my barbarian Syl took the grappler feat, and there are just things about grappling that I think should happen. I don't like how grappling works in 5e.
Okay, like what?
I think that grappling should impose some sort of disadvantage on the player being able to attack. I think you're wrapping your arms around someone, it should be harder for them to attack, not just take them to zero.
Have a disadvantage to attack.
That's restrained.
Okay.
Grappling just reduces their speed to zero.
But that's the difference between grappled and restrained. You're not pinning them. You're not holding their arms. You're just holding their waist. You're holding their clothing or their armor or something. You're not necessarily wrapping your arms around them. In my worlds, what I've allowed to do in the past is if a player wants to advance that, they can then take another action, win another check, and do what's called pinning them, which in this world would give them restraint. And I've done that before. I've actually done that before in Countless Heroes.
Okay, see, I didn't know that was a thing that I could do. Yeah. I wouldn't have taken the grapple feat if I had known that was just a thing you adjudicated. For that? Because the grapple allows you to spend another action to restrain the person after you've grappled them. That's what the grapple feat does.
I didn't realize that there was a feat that was built in to do that. Otherwise, it wouldn't allow people to do it. Saying that it's got to be something
because you should be allowed to try it anyway.
Well, you should be allowed to try it anyway. But what you should do is you should get advantage with the grappler feat then. You should have advantage on doing that check because you are better at it. That's the point. You've practiced with it. But yeah, I agree that is a thing people should be able to do. You should be able to, after grappling someone, have a chance to rip their weapon out of their hands. You know, there's a lot of things you can do, but evidently, and I just found this out, disarming is actually a part of the rule. This is an advanced rule in the
it's those optional detail rules.
Yeah. But I could see a, you know, if you've grappled someone or at least restrained someone, I could easily see a advantage to it as part of it. But
the grappling, the grappling feat gives you advantage on the attack rolls on the creature you're grappling. So like you could hold on to them and just like hit them really hard, and you can then use your action to pin the person you're grappling. Those are the two things that the feat allows you to do.
Now, here's the thing that I have to ask you, though. If you are pinning someone, like you say, or doing that action to restrain them, you've wrapped your arms around them. Are you willing to give up your attacks and your actions to hold them?
So let me give you an example of absolutely depending on the circumstances, because we were in a situation recently, not super recently. It's been so long since I've played. But we were in a gladiator arena, and we were fighting somebody who was resistant to mundane weapons. And I didn't have a magic weapon. So I had to start thinking, all right, what are my options? And one of my options was going to be, I'm going to grapple and restrain it so that everybody else can hit him, because I can't do anything.
Sure.
And I have expertise in athletics. Like I'm built to fucking grapple things. And then it was one size too large and I couldn't grapple it. And I'm like, no. But if the creature had been one size smaller, that's absolutely what I would have done. And I like the idea that if I get really screwed over and it takes a little while for me to get a magical item that lets me actually do magical damage consistently, that is my backup move, is helping everybody else. It's my version of the help action is I'm just going to bear hug arms and legs around the thing and drop it to the ground.
Nice. I like it.
The other thing that plays into grapple that I think should be fun or should be allowed to do is I don't know if there might be a feat that lets you do this. Charging something with your weapon out and you're knocking it prone to the ground, but also like basically stabbing it while you knock it to the ground. I don't know if there's a thing that lets you charge and do damage like that.
So the way that gets flavored in D&D is you can always move. You're always you can always charge. Anybody can charge. They can move and attack. That's just part of the new system. There's no you don't have to wait. You don't have to give up your move for anything in this system. So I see. But what you're saying is you want to be able to double move, or you just want to get a bonus if you move.
It's the charging's more of a flavor where you're running to the thing, and then you're both pinning and damaging it because you're just throwing your entire weight into it with your weapon and your body, not just
right. Yeah. So I see what you're saying. Pinning and grappling and all of that are very different things. There are weapons specifically designed to do that. The man-catcher is one of them. Okay. That can do damage and grapple, but it does less damage. But this goes into a good point. So this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. This idea that in combat, sometimes combat is very boring, especially for melee fighters. It's I'm going to roll my weapon. I'm gonna roll my weapon again.
There's a beautiful simplicity to that. I love being able to open up to just RPing it a bit more, which is something you get when you don't have to think about like the 5 spell lists you have to keep track of and that sort of thing. But it can get old.
Yes. So a while back, and this is not the example that started the whole thing. This started a year ago or so, and I don't remember what triggered it. Maybe 2 years ago. Something that I've always struggled with in games is this idea that I only have the actions that are available on my sheet. And I've always thought, why can't I do something? Well, one of the things I love about RPGs is that you can literally do anything. No video game, no matter how complex, is ever going to allow me to do everything I want. I have an RPG and there's a wall there. I want to go through that wall. It's not going to let me do it. Oh yeah. So
oh my god, a big red dragonborn that just busts through walls.
Yes. Oh, that'd be amazing. Has the barbarian with the object destroying. Oh, I'm loving this. But it's also a monk, so he does it with his fists.
I made fruit punch for the party. Oh yeah. He talks like Macho Man Randy Savage.
or Mr. T, or both.
Yes.
So, all right.
Yep.
What was I saying? I lost it.
I don't know, but that's my challenge. That's my challenge for making absurd.
The group absurd, yes. The group was fighting some red caps in Countless Heroes. And one of the things that one of the players said they wanted to do was to pick up the red cap by the feet and slam them against a wall. And I said, okay, go for it. And they said, what do I roll? I said, you just roll your normal attack. Whatever you normally roll, just roll that. And so they did, and they did it. And I said, okay, so now here's your options. On it. When you think about it, you're going to pick somebody up, you're going to slam them against the wall. A couple of things could happen. One, you might move them a little bit, although they were standing next to the wall, so maybe not. Two, they may not be standing when they're done because you just pick them up and slam them against the wall. Three, you just might do damage. So I said, so which of those things do you want to have happen? I said, you can do full damage, you can do half damage and knock them prone, or you can do half damage and move them 10 feet. You can throw them across the room. So I gave them 3 different options there.
Red cap tossing.
They went with the full damage. And however you flavor it, you can flavor it realistically where they just take them and slam them against the wall, or you can flavor it comically where they grab them by the feet, literally pick them up, slam them against the wall, spin them around a couple times, and they just land back on their feet or they get up afterwards. You can flavor it any way you want, but the point is, I gave them some ideas that balanced it out, and kind of balanced out this idea that they're the thing. And I thought that maybe it'd be kind of cool to come up with a chart of things that you could do, where you could, spellcasters get to flavor their spells all the time. I've got people that shoot instead of magic missiles being darts, they shoot snowballs, or marshmallows. I don't mind. It's a flavor. It's fun. It's goofy. It's their twist on their magic. So why can't we do the same on the things? You roll the same attack. You roll the same damage. It's you're still hitting with your battle axe because you have it with you. You're just flavoring the damage a little bit differently, and you may not be hitting specifically with that. If they had some extra property on the weapon, like does poison damage or something, I wouldn't let them roll that extra damage, but I'd let them roll the normal damage that their weapon would do. And I include the little any magic +1/+2 because it's small. So that's how I handle that. So that's how I'd handle a situation like that. You want to charge at someone and you want to grapple them. You want to stop them from moving by basically pitting them against the wall with your weapon. Yeah. You do half damage and you pin them, or you do no damage and you pin them. Or if you want to do both and you need to do both, half damage and you pin them, or maybe no damage and you restrain them. And you have different options there for what you can do. In the end, is that perfectly balanced? No. So,
but wizards it's be can cinematic. Fire fireballs.
It's going to be cinematic. It's going to be amazing. And you got wizards. You got people like wizards who do fireball. If you have 5 enemies, they are literally, doing hundreds of damage around.
Question. This will transition into the next subject. So if you have more to say, we can not move to that. But rule on this for me. You don't have the rules in front of you. You are presented with the following scenario. There's a creature underwater.
This is all true.
No, it's going to play into the article that we're going to talk about.
I'm just saying I don't have the rules in front of me. And
yes, it's true.
So this is actually happening. I'm there. Go ahead.
Fight is happening underwater. There's a creature underwater. A wizard wants to shoot fireball at the creature. Do you allow that spell to work?
Absolutely. 100%. Because the creators of the game said so. That's basically that. Right?
Sure. But what's the justification?
Why do I?
Yeah.
Justification? It's you flash boil the water, and boiling water hurts.
Fair. My gut reaction is
steam. You could even create steam and then have it collapse in like a depth charge.
My justification was like grenades still do damage in the water because of concussive, so you'd at least
matter of fact they do more, or at least it goes wider because it's a much harder hit. Okay. I agree with you completely. Absolutely, I would allow that to happen.
Okay.
There's not many spells I wouldn't allow to happen underwater, even if I was making the full justification on that.
Produce
if you
flame?
have the ability. If you have the ability, I would say that what happens is that you've just got steam boiling in your hand.
Ow!
You may not be able to,
Ow!
well, I mean, you hold fire in the air, so it's not that much different.
It wafts the person next to you like, ow, yeah. Hot water.
But you're not going to be able to light something on fire. It's not SpongeBob. You can't start a fire under the water.
Okay. All right. So are you comfortable moving on to the next section, or do you want to keep talking?
Good. Let's move it. Okay. Let's move on. What's
next? So SpongeBob lighting things on fire works so well for this example. Okay. So the article that I was reading was called When Rules Fail by the Angry GM. And I will smooth out the edges of his tone when he talks about this.
But by the way, if you were the type that watched SpongeBob and you caught the moment that they were standing in front of a fire, you realized that they were underwater, you might be a rules lawyer. And I think I'm going to steal that bit from Jeff Foxworthy and start. You might be a rules lawyer if. Go ahead.
Okay, so the basic gist of the article is when you're DMing and you're in that hot seat and you have to be making quick fire decisions and you don't have the rules in front of you, or you do, literally. But everyone's just going to be like, really? You're checking the book? It is far less important for a very dynamic D&D experience, at least for me. It is far less important to be 100% true to the book as written, because one, very, very few people actually have all those rules memorized. And most people that I've played with just want to tell a good story. And so it's okay if you bend rules or just disregard them occasionally. They're a framework. It's not like, I don't know, it's not like Monopoly where if you break a rule, it's like, dude, this is how the game gets played. It's collaborative storytelling with a framework. And so rules are not necessarily the most important thing when you're just playing with people.
The first rule listed in the book is literally, these rules are guidelines. Not
exactly.
rules.
Exactly. So what I really, really liked here is Angry GM lists some ways to arm yourself for making a quick decision. Things that you need to have in your brain in order to make quick decisions for your story. The 3 questions that he proposes you ask yourself when you're trying to make a very quick decision is, there's the 3 priorities. Verisimilitude, which means true to the world or reality, the tone, and balance. So the 3 questions you ask yourself if someone asks you a question and you don't know how to rule on it is, 1, should this be possible in the reality I've set forth in my world? What are the physics of my world? Should this be possible to do? How does magic work? Is this true? Second is, does it fit the tone of your game? If there's something super grimy and you don't really want to deal with the fact that someone wants to pull someone's tongue out, if that doesn't match the tone you're trying to set, you might just be like, no, you can't tug someone's tongue out of their face. And balance is, will my players, once I've set this rule down, will they just abuse the shit out of this rule because all of a sudden I've set it forth that someone can do that? Now, you're never going to get all 3. Maybe aim for 2, because it's very hard to find an absolute balance there. You have to decide in the moment what are the most important of those priorities for you, because they're all very important. But so for Logan's example of, if you're playing a game that's silly as shit, why not let someone set someone on fire while you're underwater? But if you're playing something that's a bit more gritty and a bit more realistic, by some measure of physics, you would rule, okay, it's probably not possible to set something on fire while you're underwater. But that would be the verisimilitude aspect of the 3 priorities. And I thought that as someone who, both got really excited by having to make quick decisions, but also it can be slightly paralyzing. You want to look for the book. They have answers in the book. You can find them if you have enough time. But if you don't want to take that time, having this tiered priority list, and I'm not going to forget the fact that those are the 3 things that I need to remember, and that can help me frame just how I want to prioritize my rulings as a DM.
And I'll say some poor DMs will use, especially that first one, as but all of them really, as a crutch. And that's actually very similar to the conversation we're going to have towards the end here, the easy way out. Using these things as a crutch, it doesn't belong in my world, or it doesn't fit in my world, or it doesn't fit the physics of my world. I'm talking about a world where people create fireballs and dragons are flying around. There comes a point when, some things might be too ridiculous, and sure, you can justify that. But there are also some times when those justifications just seem, they fall flat. And in those moments, those are the GMs that you can kind of struggle with. And I want to be kind of clear here. GMs are necessary to a degree, although that's debatable. They are necessary to have
write yourself out of a job, Logan.
But DMs are not more important than any other player. Every player at the table is equally important.
They are, yes, they are just as important as players, but they are not necessarily more important.
And that's the player perspective from a DM perspective of two very respectful people. Whereas she sees me as trying to put myself down and be lower, and I'm seeing the players as sometimes being put lower, and trying to build each other up. That's why we have such a great dynamic. But yeah, I agree. We are equally important on both levels. Even though, like I said, the DM may do more work, they may be the first to the table, last to leave. It's a good DM does it because they love it. They want to do it. They thrive on it. It gives them energy. And I'm not saying that's the only reason good DMs do it. There are good DMs, I'm sure, that are introverts and don't gain energy from it, but spend energy, and they do great. I'm not trying to say that, but in
more
general,
power to those people. Goodness.
There you go. Thank you. My experience for me is the reason why I DM is because I love telling that story. I love being the one that can guide things. That's where I enjoy the most fun. But I am no more important at the table than any other player. Every player deserves to have fun. So you got to watch, those things and make sure that you're not just using those tools to kind of block people from having fun. And if the players want you to tell a different kind of story than you're trying to tell, you need to think about that. Anyway, that's part of our later conversation. But I agree with you completely. It's there's something to be said about this idea of lighting something on fire underwater. And
it's
I hope that sometime
charming.
this year we have an idea for a game that we may be playing later this year with a very small cast and crew that I would love to get out, that has a very sort of comedic, ridiculous level of absurd almost levels of campiness that we want to do. And I hope that it comes to fruition this year. It may not. I can't take on many more projects until I get another day off, which hopefully will be happening soon. But
yeah, so in general, I really liked the article in terms of its content. I think it sets some really good, and I've been meaning to, and I'm going to continue reading. It's a 4-part series about improving your improvisational skills as a DM, and this was just about specifically adjudicating rules. And I really like that. I walked away from this article with a really good foundation of how to empower myself to work outside of looking up a book entry. So I really thought that this was valuable from a newer DM perspective. It helped me out a lot.
And for that last point, this idea that are the players gonna take this and run with it, I solve that very easily.
Yes, you do.
Here's my ruling right now. Let's look it up later. This is what happens in this moment. Something in the air, the humidity, something is allowing this to happen right now. Fate has woven
in your favor right now.
Magic is fickle. It might work differently next time. The point is, right this moment, here's how it works, and let's move on. Let's get the game rolling. Let's continue the story.
Just chalk it up to luck. Hell.
Yeah, and chalk it up to luck.
You got a lucky break.
I did extra damage. And in those moments, it's very easy for me because then I don't have to worry too much about even the other stuff. I can lean heavily on the player's side. If the player says, this is how I think it works, and I'm not sure, and it's not something that is hinging the plot like a major battle, I'll just let it go and say, you're right. In this moment, you're right. That's how it works. Let's look it up after. And when they're role-playing and I have a moment, and I just pop it up, and if I find the rule and there's a break, I might be like, hey, just so you know, next time, it's not going to work that way. Here's how it actually is.
I'm going to quote Jay right now. I'm going to quote Jay right now. Mercury's in retrograde, so it works right now.
There you go. Perfect.
Yes, I'm a big fan. But yeah, all right. So that was When Rules Fail by the Angry GM. I'll put the link to the article in the video description, and you can check it out if you're watching. Yeah, if you're watching after the fact, you can find it there.
Which we have discovered that Twitch has very strict rules about multicasting, which we can't do anymore. So these episodes are not making it over to the Discover RPG YouTube yet. We will get them all over there. Apologize. Right now, you can find them on. I believe you can find them over on the Nerdsmith YouTube. If you're not watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube, then ignore that part. You're fine. You're there wherever you are.
You found us. Congratulations. All right. So that was the end of When Rules Fail. Is it challenge time, Logan? Is it finally challenge time?
It is finally challenge time.
I'm so happy. Okay, so Logan, would you like
for next week?
I will think of something by the end of the 8th. By the end. All right. So Logan, what was your challenge for us this week?
So my challenge this week was an extension of our challenge from last week, which was an extension of our challenge from the week before. So 2 weeks ago, I think we started with the idea of doing just a unique class race combination. Then last week, we wanted specifically monstrous PC races and class combinations. And this week, I went non-PC monster races. So any monster in the Monster Manual or any of the other books I almost called them splat books, but they really aren't. The D&D 5e, there is no extra material. There is or at least very little. They've trimmed the fat extremely well. Everything is useful. Anyway, but now we're looking for monster race class combinations that in a perfect, amazing world you might like to play, or that you think is very unique. So I'm gonna let you go first because I think mine is cherry, and I just
gotcha.
I'm really excited about it.
Okay, so I have a bunch. Let me.
So usually you have one and I have a bunch. This week I have one, you have a bunch. And if you're talking right now, we can't hear you. Can you hear me? Hello, Angela. Can't hear you. She can't hear me. Can't hear you. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Can you hear anything I'm saying? Did I cut out? Can you hear the music? Hello? Hello? Testing. You're not in the call. I think everyone can hear me. Can you please? There you go. Not Ange. You're not in the call anymore. She can't hear me. Why am I? Yep. Internet. Angela was supposed to play Countless Heroes last night along with Andy. But you're not in the call. You're not. You're not in the call. You are not in the call. You are not in the call. You're not in the call. Not in the call. Free dance party there. She was supposed to say last night, but her internet's been having some funky issues for months. And I can't, they can't see what you're sending to me. So leave the call and come back. She can't hear me. So I found those funky boots. They're jumping into fitness with jump boots from the Sharper Eye. I don't know, Sharp Eye. They are springy boots. That's what she was talking about earlier today. So if you want to go find those, you can just look up jump boots. And they got like little football shaped springs on the bottom of them. Anyway. So I'm doing the show by myself now. I like this. I'm in charge now. I am the captain now. Bum, bum, bum. What do you guys want to talk about? No, sharp eye. Didn't say sharper image. Kitsune, the werewolf. Or you could do what Logan did and send our very wonderful Fox Lady moderator, community manager, a jackal-headed, no, not jackal, it was a hyena-headed creature, all excited that it kind of looked like a fox from a distance, and then realized much, much later that it wasn't. And now you understand why she wasn't really excited about it. Oh, a flump would be great. We could do a flump. What would a flump be? Flump. That'd be something not great intelligence. Let's see. Flump. A flump barbarian. Just like squirts out its icky gooiness as a raging attack. A raging flump? That would be amazing. Okay. Oh no, I like the raging flumps. Actually, matter of fact, that's okay. Hold on, that's a new band. The Raging Flumps. Man, this band stinks. So what kind of music does the Raging Flumps what kind of music do they do the Raging Flumps? Beholder clerics, what would they do? Like use eye stalks to heal? Alright. Celtic punk. Alright, Celtic punk. Alright. So the Raging Flumps play Celtic punk. What is unique beside? I mean, are they actually flumps? Do they just dress like flumps? What does that mean? Do I? Oh, I see her popping back in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. What was that all about?
Discord just had a conniption fit on me.
Yeah, it does. Like, well, we created.
I was in the call. It said I was in the call, even though I wasn't. Like it said, it had Yumi and DM Assistobot, and then I even tried to take a screenshot, and I wrote, "What do you call this? This isn't being not in the call." Sorry, I'm so sorry. Let's just pick up.
We created while you were gone the Raging Flumps, which is a Celtic punk band. And their tagline is "This band stinks."
Oh my god, that's amazing! I like it.
And they came up with a Beholder cleric as a
interesting.
So please go back to what you were saying.
So let me try again. I had a list of
you have a list that I thought was fun. I have a list, and you've got one, but in this case, you've got a list, and I have one.
Okay, so some of the things that I was thinking about doing: flying monkey. A grung, the little I just love the little dart frog guy, so I thought it would be adorable. Yep. A scarecrow of something.
Okay.
Some sort of class. I didn't have class mixes for some of these. I don't remember what a Zorbo is, but a Chwinga was also very adorable. They were these little masked fae that did fun little things. The other that I had up was a guardian portrait bard that you'd have to carry around, and he would throw inspiration to you. I thought that would be fun. Okay, so my actual decision was enchanted armor that was a fighter, specifically a samurai. I really was looking through the samurai subclass, and it talks about your fighting spirit, and so I was really keen on sort of the sort of pun of that. That is just a sentient suit of armor that is, they have this idea that they're like noble fighters. They have sort of a courtier sort of vibe to them, and I just imagined kind of almost like a character in like Beauty and the Beast.
Sure, yeah.
As sort of this very personable, charming suit of armor that
I love it.
Uses its fighting spirit to like fend off unconsciousness and and has a bunch of cool fighting abilities to sort of harness its spirit to fight better.
I think that's a great idea. I love that idea.
I like it very much.
My idea is a little more silly, as usual. I was going to go with a Beholder bard, who is its own light show.
That's awesome.
Or its own mirror ball. Now, most of the time, anyone who's been to one of his parties never wants to go back, or can't. And the buildings very rarely survive, but in general, they are quite the rager.
That's awesome.
I also like the one we came up with earlier, the Flump Barbarian, that rages by squirting a big color.
Ew. But that is pretty choice. I like it.
Oh, you know what would be a good one? I would love to see a boggart, anything, pretty much. I just want to see a boggart. You know how the children in Peanuts treat Pigpen? That's how everyone treat the boggart, with all this tar everywhere, just leaving this gross and tar all around. And I'd be like, oh, I like that. All right, I'm done. There's that Rapunzel Fae as well. That would be a cool one. What was that? I'm trying to remember the name of that. It's I don't think you guys fought it here. You fought it over, and it was a Tolos thing. But no, it's a Fae that has really long hair that can attack you and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was exactly. Koran, boom, test the
Jay, Modron Bard just does things in 8-bit binary. Sounds like those people that make music out of SNESs.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
It's like BMO in Adventure Time. You just plug them in.
Yes, thank you. Good job. All right. So that was our challenge time. Did you come up with a challenge for?
No, I need a little bit of time to think about it.
All right. Well, then you can have it by the end of the episode. So, okay. 50 minutes.
Oh no, I've got a good one.
Oh shit! All right.
Come up with like a really kick-ass, goofy guild, like an organization.
Okay. That's easy. Got it.
Yeah.
I say that until 2 minutes before next episode.
Oh God, what am I?
Damn it.
Okay, so a guild. Come up with a fun
Sounds
guild
good.
concept. Alrighty, I'm putting that down. So what's our next subject?
Our next subject is Taming of the Brew, which is our homebrew segment. This week we are talking about the Lady in the Lake, and I have a little piece of trivia for you from our very own Finnick, who loves Arthurian legend and is very excited about it. So she says that, going to say a fun fact about Lady of the Lake stuff. Most iron was originally found in bogs and lakes. So so people have theorized that the Lady of the Lake could look like a blacksmith instead of the traditional painting.
I love that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
The Lady of the Lake, but that also changes things. Lady of the Lake could easily just be a metaphor for where they got the iron from, which is very interesting. But overall, I love that little piece of trivia. So thank you, Fennec.
Thank you, Fennec. This particular homebrew is from a user on Reddit, Zenozin, on the Unearthed Arcana subreddit, and I put a link in the chat. There will also be one in the video.
Oops, so did I.
I did it already. So it's an otherworldly patron for a warlock, which I also enjoy the quote, "Strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of spell casting."
Perfect.
So the premise of the Lady of the Lake is the Arthurian legend, but they talk about the idea it's a mystical being that determines its warlocks based on who is worthy, quote unquote. So that's sort of a key for something I want to talk about. But they're saying who embody the chivalric values of the land. And so it kind of feels a little like mixing a hexblade with a paladin, which I really like the flavor of that.
Sure.
And let me see. So some of the things you get is you get some extra weapon proficiencies. You can also sort of you get a charisma mod instead of strength or dex with attacking with particular weapons. So you get sort of like a choice weapon you can grant with her favor. And you get there's some temporary hit points stuff. You get a steed at a certain point. You can conjure a steed. And there are some like I am strong of will. I can resist with some saving throws. And what's actually kind of interesting is at 14th level, you have sipped from the lady's chalice, granting you granting you saint-like might. Your natural lifespan is doubled. So you get sort of a Holy Grail extended lifespan vibe. And you also so there's some neat features that you get with it. A lot of the spells are feeding into this idea of like a knight. There's, like I said, the paladin vibe is coming from a lot of the spells that you get. You're getting a couple of the smite abilities that I think only paladins typically get. Some of the smite spells, and Crusader's Mantle, Elemental Weapon. A lot of it's just this, I am a noble paragon of chivalry kind of vibe with it, which is a very fun, less creeptastic version of a warlock. I'm a big fan of variants on warlocks that are not necessarily coming from a Tim Burton movie, though I love myself a creepy warlock, or a warlock that has sold their soul to some like otherworldly fiend. There is something really charming to me about I really dig the celestial patron, that you could sell your soul or something to a more positive force too. You could it's just I like the idea of it being a different way of connecting with the divine, or with just a more benign, or maybe not benign, but a more positive force in the world. It's just a different way of accessing that power. So the Lady of the Lake fits into that, that vibe a little bit more than just being like, oh, so my soul's forfeit. Might as well have fun while I'm alive kind of vibe that I sometimes get from traditional warlock patrons. But the thing that I noticed about this particular homebrew, though, there is definite flavor built into it that implies traditional chivalric values. But the fact that it just says the lady appears before those she considers worthy, and based on the chivalric values of the land, what if you're in a place that's a little more sinister? It's not necessarily the values, or whoever is worthy doesn't necessarily have to be a paragon of good. It could be the Lady of the Lake, could be some sort of more, like I said, a more sinister force that is giving people these abilities. So you don't necessarily have to turn this into, I'm a goody two-shoes, or I'm basically a paladin. And so I like the fact that there's a bit of wiggle room in here for interpretation and flavor adaptation. So I do very much enjoy it.
It looks good to me. I was just looking over. I was not concerned, but I was just curious about.
I hear music now. Okay. That was accident. Everything is breaking. Anyway, okay, so hi everybody. You should be able to hear me now. So we're just gonna let Logan figure out what he's doing, and I'm just gonna vamp for the camera. And see how it goes. What are we going to talk about? Because I expended everything I had to talk about the Lady of the Lake. So let me take a look. How about this? I'm going to talk.
Hello.
I hear you now.
Can the audience hear me now?
I don't know. We'll see.
Wow, that was lovely.
New year, new tech problems. Woo!
All right. Yay, we're back. Discord is back up and running.
I was ready. Discord. It took me a little while, but I was ready with just skipping to
skipping to what now?
One of us, since that was mostly me talking. But how about we see, okay, here's what I feel bad. I feel bad talking about sponsors right after they were so patient with us.
What? Well, they want to hear what we have to say. I promise.
Okay.
And not sponsors, just sponsor.
Okay.
We only have one on this show right now.
Gotcha.
Although the network is sponsored by several, and we're going to talk about a network too. So let's talk about Nerdsmith really quick. We are very proud to be a part of the Nerdsmith network. You can go over to nerdsmith.org to check out all the amazing content over there. The website's working. And you can even donate to us to help us get our website working over at nerdsmith.org/donate. Sorry, I was up for several hours last night working on our website. All right. So
the salt is real.
The salt is very real right now. What we would like to talk to you about, though, is this. Is it right? Is it? Ta-da! Spotlight at the bottom.
Okay, so along with Countless Heroes, Discover RPG is sponsored by Die Hard Dice, who are a really kick-ass group of people that make they design metal dice and sell what's it called? Poly something. Plastic.
Sorry.
They sell plastic dice. I don't know the term for it. But they have some really cool accessories and all sorts of neat stuff. Polymer dice. Thank you.
And these polymer dice are, and you're not going to be able to see them very well in here, but this here is a set that is, their polymer stuff is manufactured by other people. They buy it and they resell it. Just like nearly every other polymer company out there, other than Chessex. And maybe one other. So if there's a dice set you're looking at a very expensive, maybe saltwater animal-based sort of company, you can find those dice elsewhere much cheaper, including at Die Hard Dice. So if you're looking for something in particular and it's plastic. Now, if you want something extremely unique, and you want to get it from people that designed it and not from some cheap knockoff. You go to Die Hard Dice, and they do the Mythica or the Gothica or the Forge, any number of their dice sets, and they are just incredible. They have an enamel coating. They are well balanced. They are just beautiful pieces of jewelry, in my opinion.
Not very zoomed in, but you can see the basic. But I'm shocked how easy it is to actually read from a distance. These are very well done dice.
Will not find a better set of metal dice anywhere. So we connected with Die Hard Dice. Let's see here. About a month ago, thanks to a very good friend of ours, Jess, who, if you are a dice collector, you should go onto the Facebook group Dice Maniacs, as Jess is a moderator over there, and she has so many dice, more than my wife, which is saying something. But you can go join them. That's a plug for her, because she connected us with Die Hard Dice after a long and arduous battle with a massive sea creature. And once we finally gave up that fight, we took a break, and then we found Die Hard Dice. And after learning about Die Hard Dice and learning about these other companies and a lot of the other companies out there that are just really resellers of the same dice, sometimes they get their own logo put on them or something like that, but really they're the exact same dice that everybody can get. Finding a company that actually 3D models, creates, and works directly with the manufacturers, so they have an exclusive set of dice. It was exactly what we wanted. Other than a couple of companies out there that have hundreds of dollars dice sets where they manufacture in-house, such as Wormwood or something like that, these are the best you can get. So that is why we agreed to do this, and we're very, very happy to be a part of them.
And they are also super awesome people.
Rotten. Yeah. And they would like to spoil you rotten. And yes, they are amazing people as well. So you can go to Die Hard Dice, make any order you like, and enter the code DRPG, those 4 letters, into the coupon code section for 15% off your first order. That's DRPG as a coupon code. You get 15% off your first order, and then every time you go there, you make them very happy, and that's what we're trying to do, is make our sponsors very happy so they continue to want to sponsor us. So go over there and please purchase some dice for you. New year, new you, new dice. That's what I say. I've always said that for 5 minutes. So that's my new slogan for the year.
My favorite thing about my Mythica, they're what, battle worn gold is the color. My favorite thing about them is the D4s don't have points on them, which, one, you think, oh, that's good, it's less of a caltrop for you to step on. But also, I just discovered that I can balance it on its point on a table, which is very fun. And also the D6s are rounded. They're really pretty. Everything's just really pretty with these sets.
Very nice.
I have never had a metal set, and it is incredibly fun.
I have the Dark Iron set. This is kind of a rustic antique finish. There's no color. Comes in these beautiful boxes. You can upgrade to an 11 set, which is very nice. And I feel like we're becoming an infomercial here. That wasn't the point.
For 3 quick purchases of $12.99
right now,
gold.
We'll throw in no, we get nothing for free. You get 15% off. That's what you get. But if you make a large enough purchase, that will make one of these basically free, which are their very nice flat load. Oh, can't hear
that felt like the dice equivalent of tearaway pants. I was very uncomfortable with that noise and the vigor with which you ripped it open.
For when you absolutely have to get to your next game in a hurry. Flat, but it is
protect yourself when your players chuck dice at you for your rulings.
Anyways, that's that. It's also great frisbee. Don't throw it. Anyway, they're really nice. I like these a lot. I have other dice containers that are trays and things, and they don't collapse like that. And I realized I've never taken them anywhere because they don't fit in my bag. This one I actually will take with me, and
you could like fit it between the manuals, and it would keep it all protected and very portable. I like it very much.
It does have snaps on it, so if you care about the outside of your book, I wouldn't put it against the manuals, but maybe at the edge of the pocket with
your notebook. You can put it on between your notebook.
Absolutely. Anyway, So Logan's Tearaway Pants Show. Okay, that's
no, we just
wait, do tearaway pants have snaps or
some of them do.
Okay, I did not know.
Some of them have Velcro, some of them have snaps.
All right, you know, I have in my life had to try to rip off a lot of Velcro off of things, and like a large surface area. It is difficult. I don't see how people do that. It seems like a lot of Velcro.
Tiny little pieces of Velcro.
Oh, is that what it is? Got it.
I don't know. I don't have experience with tearaway
you have better
pants.
Logistics than I do right now. This has been our Tearaway Pants Hour. Anyway, so Die Hard Dice is our new sponsor, and they are wonderful, and we're very excited to be a part of them. We will be giving away, and I'm thinking maybe our episode with our special guest.
Yeah, you can say that right now.
Okay, we're gonna have a special guest. So our special guest is coming in 2 weeks. It is going to require a special time, though. So what we're going to do is 2 weeks from today, on the 16th, we will be broadcasting at 7 a.m. PST, 10 p.m. Eastern.
But Logan,
7 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern.
How about
we're going to rebroadcast at our normal time. So we'll do a rerun at our normal time, and we will be in the chat talking with you at that time, as long as I haven't passed out.
Are we going to attempt to do the giveaway during live stream or during the restream? Because it's a more reasonable hour for human beings.
I would say that we should probably do the giveaway during the restream at our normal time.
So at normal time.
That means we can have a goofy, fun... So basically, it's going to be a pre-recorded episode, but we are going to be there in the chat with you live. And if you want to be there in the morning, you can be there in the morning with us at that point live, and you can be with us twice. But we will be in the rebroadcast live discussing the show with you, and then we'll do the giveaway then. So we're
going to MST3K the shit out of that show.
Yeah. So
we're going to be like, gosh, Angela just doesn't learn her lines very well.
Yeah, no.
So who is our guest?
Who is the guest? Do you really want to know that?
Yeah.
So our guest is the one and only Scraticus from Scraticus Academy. He is the only person that I know personally that works harder than I do in the amount of games they play every week. There's a couple that I don't know personally that I do know work harder than I do as well. But Scraticus runs 14 games a week. 2 to 3 hour sessions, I believe, 2 to 3 a day. Often he is a full-time DM based East Coast-ish area, and he's been putting together an amazing thing. He is very diversity focused, and he likes introducing new people to the game.
Yeah.
He is just incredible. He has a lot of unique, fun ways of DMing, and we're just going to chit and chat with him. He's going to be here for the whole show, and we're going to just do our normal show, but with a guest.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
A few weeks ago, so it's going to be very, very nice.
I'll be here, and I'll have the full faculties of my nasal passages.
And yes, and Angela and I are also going to be putting in our applications to be, as by his request, to be on some of his shows, some of his one shots. So
maybe you'll see some of our crazy ass character ideas if he's willing to indulge us.
So that is happening. If there is somebody you would like to see us interview or help us host, let us know in the comments here, or let us know in the YouTube comments down below. Or the best thing to do would be to at Discover RPG Show on Twitter. No underscores. At Discover RPG Show on Twitter, and we can do that. But any one of those is fine. We'll get it written down somewhere. And we will be glad to reach out and see if we can have that person as a guest on the show. Our goal this year is to have one guest a month.
That would be nice.
We've already got this month and next month set up. I would like to get to the point where it's 2 guests a month. But Angela wants to start small, and she's always right. So she's always right.
Okay.
She's always right. At least when it comes to how much work we can realistically handle. She's almost
speaking of guest stars, and also speaking of other things, so for the Republic of Kyros in Countless Heroes, can the person
got it?
Well, no, in the Republic of Kyros, can the Chancellor's name be Paolo, and then we can bring Paolo Kyros on from the film Reroll and tell him he has a character name.
I'm not sure that that's going to work out, but we'll talk about
it. Of Kyros. It would be
Paolo of Kyros.
I like it. But yeah. So yeah, we're super excited. We will have things going on with Die Hard Dice going forward. We have some fun plans with them.
That's right. So yeah. Starting hopefully this week, but maybe next week.
Probably next week.
We are going to start doing our short videos that'll recap some of the little points that we'll be doing about and knowing us. They'll probably turn to slightly longer videos. They'll probably be somewhere between, I would say, 3 to 5 minute videos.
Yes,
maybe upwards of 10 at the most. We're going to be releasing, hopefully, the goal is once a week. And as a part of our partnership with Discover, with Die Hard Dice, that content will be releasing over there on their website through their blog first. And then we'll go on to our YouTube after. Well, it'll always be on our YouTube. It'll be you won't be able to find it. You'll have to see it over there first for a week. And as the next one releases, that one will move over, and then the new one becomes their content for a week. So we got really excited about the idea of doing this and becoming and having them be not just a sponsor but a partner of ours. It was their idea, and we thought it was an amazing idea. So we're going to be working with them to do that. So for this year, you're going to see all of our content go over there first. So do us a favor. Go buy some dice when you get a chance, when you have some money, and it's not going to hurt you. Use the coupon
use that
code
sweet
RPG,
Christmas card money.
Get your 15% off. Get that Christmas card money, and so our sponsors can see how amazing and wonderful our community is, because that is what it's all about. So thank you guys so much for that. Yeah, so we're very excited to get those going. We're going to start writing the scripts this week, probably today, and then we'll have that going up next week, hopefully.
End of commercial.
End of commercial. All right, what's next?
Okay, so one of us, on the subject of Scraticus, some of these blended so well together. I'm bringing new players to games and to D&D. Almost. So
that was not.
Speaking of bringing new players, this segment, one of us, will be something that we occasionally do, talking about bringing in people who are new to tabletop role-playing in general, or specifically to D&D, and finding ways to engage them. And the first one I would like to talk about is a module, quote-unquote module. I need to find the link for it, but there is another, I frequent all the subreddits for D&D and end up finding really fun stuff. There was a premise for a game called 1,000 Wands of Magic Missile. And so the premise of the game is that you have players who are just playing like commoner NPCs. You don't have a lot of like stats and stuff to worry about. And you are presented with a circumstance in which a eccentric person asks them to help them test a barrel of Wands of Magic Missile. And you will get paid for identifying what these Wands of Magic Missile do, because they're not just Wands of Magic Missile. They all have a weird little quirk to them. And so there's an additional effect that happens consistently, but it does appear to be random among the wands what they do. And this is where you bring in magic tables. Wow, magic tables can be so fun. And the premise of the game is just goof off. They can wander around in this little world, and you have to hit something with a Wand of Magic Missile in order to activate the other wild magic ability that it has. And then you move on and you just play around and see what happens and see what your players do, because you can actually reuse the wands. They'll do the same thing that you rolled the first time. So they'll start amassing all of these abilities that they can start goofing off with in the world. And if you have somebody that doesn't get easily overwhelmed by magic stuff, like there's a lot of things that can happen. They like doing something funny, but haven't necessarily played Dungeons and Dragons before. I find this to be a really fun, very rules light way of playing in a fantasy setting with a particular thing that people sometimes enjoy, or it's sometimes made of their existence, specifically wild magic tables. And I say tables because I'm not necessarily talking about what's in the PHB or in the DMG, the canon wild magic table. I have a list of 10,000 magic effects that some of them are more helpful than others. A lifelong goal of mine is to take the 10,000, and I currently have them in an Excel document, and I'm trying to sort them. I don't think I'll ever finish. But someday if I finish, there'll be things that don't automatically kill the party and stuff that just adds a bit of whimsy to the game. Yeah.
So speaking of he's very goodly, welly flowing from one to the other. Scraticus has a homemade community built. I believe there's maybe 1,600 entries for their Wild Magic table. So that should be something we should ask him about as well. To ask him, because whenever I see him do it in one of his games, he always says something like "roll a d 1,642," and I'm like, "What?" And the chart exists somewhere on their Discord. I haven't been able to find it yet, but actually, no, I did. It was sent to me by someone, and I forgot. I just haven't had a chance to look through it. But yeah, I was very excited about it. So
the original this original game is called the Commoner Curse of 300 Wands. And I put the link in the chat. It's by a user named Draz825. One of the reasons I love this thing so much and I got so into it is because they're detailing what happened during their session of this game. And some really absurd shit happened in this game. And it's the net librum of random magical effects. It's there's a ton of stuff in this. It literally has 10,000 magical effects.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That one's a little ridiculous. So there's got some weird stuff in there.
Right, and it's fun though. And like I said, I've actually copied and pasted all of them. It's not, the PDF's not actually formatted very well for copying and pasting. Just be warned. Let me do the work, or find some elves to do the work for me. Of sorting these by kind of what the effect is, whether it's I call them party killers or like crowd control stuff or reality bending. I have different categories, and ideally what'll happen is I'll have this chart that you can then filter and sort the kinds of things you want to happen with your wands. You can control a little bit how out of control the magic will be. But yeah, so I run this game, and the commoners meet in my game, they meet a kindly eccentric gnome named Professor Markel von Hammerford Schmidt, and he offers them more money. I mean, you're commoners. He's offering you 200 gold. That's more money than you're going to see in years of working or ever. And so you have sort of this basic, like, it's a job. I could use the job. And so you just sort of buy into it. It's important that the players buy into that initial setup. So I would suggest you walk them through all of that. And you don't necessarily give them agency until after they've agreed to do it, because it's the premise of the game. So if you'd like them to actually play the game, I would have them be like, you've just signed a contract with a guy, and you then have the wands. I also hand waved and gave them a magical label maker that would like disappear and reappear, that would let them label the wands. So if someone gets all nitpicky about, well, how do we know which wands do what? You have the label maker.
Got it. I like that. So I did something similar in one of our games. I had people testing potions that had been mixed or mismixed or whatever, and had random stuff based on the surges. I did find Scraticus's. It's 642. So answer, roll me a D642.
Okay.
Oh, 613. Sorry.
613.
D613. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you not have one of those?
470. You left. I didn't do it this time. Anyway, I rolled a 417. But anyway, I'll just talk. I'll just talk till Logan comes back. I can't hear you still, bud. I'll let you know when I hear you. Not that you can hear me. Yes. Hello? How is everyone? Oh, I can hear you. Sorry, Fennec. That was a really good icebreaker concept. Yes, I hope everyone's doing well.
Okay. So, what'd you get?
470.
Nothing happened. 470. So, target skin becomes unblemished, devoid of hair, and its eyes give off a silvery light every moonlit. That's still anyway.
Just still to what? Still good.
Right, do again. Do again.
Guys, I don't think this magic thing does anything.
That sounds about right.
35.
35. All right. Let's see here. 35. Teleport it onto the shoulders of your target. Well, I like
nice. That. I did that to a beholder.
You'd be very happy with that. So anyway, so that is Scraticus's. I am not going to share that with the chat. I will share Scraticus's Discord. So if you'd like to get it, you can go over there and you can get it for free from them. Just ask in the chat. And who sent it to me? Potato, somebody or other. Who sent it to me? I just had it, but I had to come back. Potato Hollow.
That's not a nice. That's not a nice thing to call people.
That's their name. So let me get the Scraticus Academy. I'll get his Discord here. The share link. How do I get a share link to any of his things? Hold on. I don't know where the share link is. I'll have to go to his page. All right, I'll do that. You move on.
Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is a D&D Beyond article that was recently written by Michael Shea, aka Sly Flourish, if I'm not mistaken, Logan. I'm going to double check. Yes, Sly Flourish, who wrote an article for D&D Beyond. I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can check it out. It is called Using Abstract Maps. So you run a game and combat ensues, and you've got your little grid, you have everything set up, and there's other ways of doing that. You don't necessarily have to have your... you don't necessarily have to have the grid up, the 5 foot per square thing. There are ways of using abstract maps which are adding enhancements to what would be normally just theater of the mind. You have a lot of stuff to track. Sometimes it's hard for players to keep in mind what's going on when you're dealing purely in theater of the mind. So sometimes having alternate map styles that are simple but easy to track what's happening can enhance play if you need that sort of visual cue. Some people are more visual than others, and it can be helpful to have different ways of approaching spatial awareness in your combat scenarios, or just in encounters in general. So Sly Flourish went through a couple of things that you can use, or some different ways of setting up abstract maps. And how to deal with distances. One thing in particular, instead of doing like counting out, they talk about the idea of setting up your rules for how to judge distance in the basic abstract. So nearby, far away, engaged, behind, grouped together, just finding qualitative ways rather than quantitative ways of describing where things are as your ways of dictating. Like, you can shoot something that is nearby, or it's too far off because it's way in the distance. Like, coming up with a way of articulating that. One way of visually doing that with a map is very similar to how Fate games, the Fate system runs. It runs with the zone system that Fate runs with. So the idea is, instead of having a grid that dictates everything, you have a series of zones. And those zones are the major locations for your encounter. You can have, all right, so one zone is where the target you're trying to fight is. Say you're fighting one bad guy. One zone would be where the target is, one zone would be where you are, and there's a zone in between that's like, say, a parking lot. Say you're in an urban game. You are capable, you simplify your movement. Instead of saying, I have 30 movement, you're able to move into a zone with one move, and if you dash, you can move 2 zones. It's just a more relative way of judging distances and locations of people in combat. I personally really like the zone system from Fate. And Sly talks about just some of the advantages of being a little bit less specific. It keeps combat moving a little bit better or faster because you're not having people count out their spaces. You're just sort of it's just a way of hand waving a little bit so that you can focus on the elements of combat that you want to focus on. So if strategy and tactics are not quite what you're worried about or not quite what you're wanting to super focus on, a zone system could really, it gives players a visual cue of what's where, but it's a bit more loose. Allows people to imagine kind of how they want. It also keeps you from having to set up a grid system and having to be very meticulous with how you're setting up your map. You just say you're in a house, zone 1's the foyer, zone 2's the living room, zone 3's a little further out, it's the kitchen further down the way. And it's just a way of naming different spaces that you can interact with during your combat. Yeah. So I really like that.
I've done something similar to that in the game, so I think that's a really good system. It has its own complications, but overall, it's it can help you get through some combats fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm. And Sly talks about a couple of other options, like the Final Fantasy style, which is something he talked about, where there's a front line. It's a one-dimensional line of monsters and characters on each side, so you have a front line and a back line, and it takes one move to hit something in the front line, but it takes 2 moves to hit something in the back line. And you just think of it like a Final Fantasy combat, which I was like, that's kind of a fun way to do that too. And I really enjoy the fact that the article talks about just different ways of engaging people's imaginations to deal with theater of the mind in a way that I think you have a few options there just based on what someone's frame of reference is, which I really like.
Yeah. I was watching an article the other day about, I was watching a video the other day that I'd been linked to by someone, and it was a little frustrating because it was right after that Theater of the Mind article had come out with Sly Flourish, and it was their kind of response to that, talking about how Theater of the Mind sucks. And they kind of just were an old school gamer, and they talked about how back when they started playing, we didn't have any miniatures or grids or anything like that, and we had to do everything by hand, and that when they started getting these things, they were like magic, that all of a sudden you could finally see where everything was on the table, etc. And part of me just wanted to say, yeah, we also have the internet, YouTube, and Twitch now, but yet podcasts
and tabletop simulator.
You know, I was just it's funny, you know, the visual medium, isn't necessary for role playing. It isn't necessary for a lot of things. Can it be helpful? Sure. You're doing a big, you know, combat or
want visual spectacle because that's a thing you value. As with almost everything with RPGs, live and let live, dude. Just there's different. It's not one size fits all. There's no reason to treat it like that. There's no reason to say this is the objective correct way to do things.
But more specifically, this idea that it's not just the correct way, but that the other way can't be successful. And it's frustrating because it very much can be. Matter of fact, some of my most engaging combat had very little rolls at all. We just did moments the whole time. There was no rolling. And no grids and nothing. And those are the moments I remember more in my mind than any other.
Well, and you know what that, but you know what that does? We know what rolling feels like. We know what having a combat like that is. What you did was cement a really unique experience into the game. And that's why a variety, if you can handle it, a variety can be awesome. Doing different styles of engaging, not maybe setting the expectation with your players. Don't expect everything to be done in a consistent way because we want to engage you in different ways. We want you to feel excited and like, oh, this is a really unique system. Like, this is a really unique way to have this combat. Because I mean, everything's a meta conversation anyway, overlaying a collaborative storytelling experience. It's a framework, like we had talked about. It's not hard and fast rules. It's a way of enabling you to experience a storytelling moment. And so having a variety of ideas for how to do it is great. Doing them in one campaign can be really cool. Like just coming up with something different just to mix things up.
Well, that's the thing. Some combats need miniatures, some don't. Period, end of story. You know, not every situation is going to be the same all the way across the board. You don't need one or the other to be exclusive. You don't have to have minis for every fight. minis slow down combat. The minis and maps make people take more time, and especially with this idea that unless you're one of those DMs and I failed to do this often, but that sits there and times each person's turn to make sure that they take it timely. The idea that the battle map constantly changing can become analysis paralysis for some players. It can be an issue. They look down and they go, this isn't the way it was 5 minutes ago when I ended my turn and I had my plan. Now I have to come up with a whole new plan. Or just that very last move that the NPC or even PC made has completely changed what I'm going to do, because I was going to drop a fireball right in the middle, but now there's a PC there. I'm not going to do that anymore. So you have these frustrations that come along with miniatures and maps when before, in Theater of the Mind, where can I drop a fireball? How many can I hit by dropping a fireball? Well, maybe it's only 6 out of the 8. But in Theater of the Mind, all of a sudden that's okay. Whereas on the table, your ally here would just barely be within the fireball, so you can only get 3 instead of 6. That's stupid. It's like, no, let it hit the 6. Don't let that detriment the idea that this fireball, what it's designed to do, is going to go off.
Yeah. So yeah, I really dig this article. Sly did a really good job. I think it's a fun idea to introduce people into alternate ways of mapping things out. This plays a little bit into sort of DIY. You don't have the money for grids. You don't have Roll20. You don't necessarily have the tech savvy to run Roll20. A bunch of Post-its on the table that says, here are the rooms. That's totally legit. Like, do that. So I like the idea of broadening, and I know some people, I'm a big proponent of saying there are systems for everything. This is an example of blending other systems into D&D if that happens to be the system that you're comfortable with. Finding other ways of just, playing how you want. I'm a big proponent of just mixing it up and playing how you want. So I really applaud this article for being not just how to work inside the rules. It's here's some alternate rules. So
we have 3 minutes left, and if we didn't have all those audio issues today,
we would have gotten through everything.
But really quick, the easy way out, we actually touched on this a little earlier. This idea that if you just banning things just to ban them, the biggest one I hear is Aarakocra. The DM often says, I can't, they don't fit in my world is an excuse that you hear a lot. And that was kind of the point of this, that crutch of it doesn't fit in my world, which we touched on a little bit with the physics of the world. And I love the idea that everything has a place in D&D. 4th edition philosophy for Eberron was, if it exists in D&D, it exists in Eberron. And when it first came out, I didn't like that idea because it was frustrating to think that you had to find a place for everything. But just because it has a place, just because it exists, doesn't mean it has to be prominent, doesn't mean it has to be significant, just means it has to be possible. And I think that is the crux of that idea. You can have a system where, okay, here's X, Y, and Z, and I do limit them. Like I say, only 1 or 2 Aarakocra, or 1 or 2 of any one race that has what some DMs call problematic functionality or abilities. But you also have to remember, Aarakocra get very little else other than their flight. And as Mike Merles and a few others have said, you can create combats that limit their flight. You don't want to do that all the time, but you can do that. There's a lot of ways to get around that, but also let them be a flying badass. I meant, it's okay. Let them succeed in that way. That makes their crushing defeat even more delicious when you figure out how to not interfere with their flight, but succeed around them without it. And as a DM, if you can do that, if you can master that ability to allow people their strengths and not have to take away their strengths, but yet can find their weaknesses and pull those strings, that's a successful DM in my opinion. And that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit with that, is just this idea that you don't have to ban things. It's not necessary. That's not saying you can't do it. And in some situations it is. You want to play an all-human campaign. That's a little different than, I just don't want to deal with Aarakocra. Or I don't want to deal with a Wand of Binding. I don't want to deal with whatever. or I don't like that spell because one time it was spammed to death. If somebody is using something and spamming something to death and using the same thing over and over and just Sentinel, and that's the big one that gets banned a lot now, Sentinel and Polar Master. That combination is very difficult. The problem is it also requires a lot of saves and rolls. So yeah, it might interfere with your combat a little bit. Get smarter fighters. There are other ways around it. Have people learn about the party and understand their tactics. The dumb kobold fights are still going to have that issue. That's okay. The dumb hobgoblins, the dumb whatevers. But when you get to the smart ones, the ones that can think about the tactics and things, you can start working around those. But in the meantime, let them do where they put their points. That's the point of letting them succeed. Let them have what they have. And your players will appreciate it.
I like that. All right. Well, we have hit our
if we're still
time.
up, if people can still hear us,
I think so.
We're gonna go ahead and.
We had nothing but dance parties all during the time.
Lots of dance parties.
I'll edit this episode to make it a little cleaner, so it'll be fine. No one will even know we had tech issues.
Thank you all for being here. I know. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. I'm not quite sure how many of you there are right now, okay. But we're going to go ahead and do a quick little raid. We're going to go over to Madame Gandalf, which is a stream. I don't know what her stream's about, but there's some cool things going on around it. Just chatting is what they're doing, but they are, I know, part of the Scraticus Academy. They are on some of the shows there, and we'll go ahead and raid over there, and we'll just go say hi. So thank you guys. So please come along with us if you can. I know there's not a lot of you right now because it's the middle of the day and you're working, but please come along and let's go do our raid and we'll have a lot of fun. Thank you guys. We shall see you.
Thank you all.
Next week.
Be good to each other. Bye.
Well, be okay to each other. All right, be good to each other.
Be decent to each other.